Is a slightly more complex program, and so we're starting to move up in the food chain, so to speak. And I went ahead and included the two opening import statements. Uh, as I recall, they don't matter in this one either, but just establish the practice. And so what I want to do is a program that finds the divisors of some number. And we'll end up using this again. We're going to build pieces of the puzzle called the square root algorithm that your professor, that'd be me, has created. Still working on publishing it, but I'm going to lead you down the path of coding that algorithm. It's a unique algorithm. Anyways, step one here. One of the steps involves looking at divisors because there's a novel pattern in number theory that pops up when we're trying to do square roots the way that I've thought of. Anyways, so again, the num, catchy name. I asked for what positive number do you want divisors for? Simple enough. Now I go ahead and convert the num to an integer so that I can do certain things with it, namely put them into arrays. Now the divisor, we're going to start with the divisor that every number has, which is 1. And we're going to be able to fill an array, and so I've just called it div array, divisor array. And when you put two square brackets that close on each other together like this, it's an empty list. And technically in Python they're called lists. They're called arrays in MATLAB and other languages, C, Java, etc. Lists, arrays, you say tomato, I say tomato. All right. So those are the basic starting stuff, and anything that happens in a loop needs to be declared, or many things that happen inside a loop need to be declared outside of the loop. All variables need to be. So while the divisor is less than the num. Simple enough, because here we're going to start incrementing by 1. Now what we want to do is we can do this by hand. We could say, does this number evenly divide? Okay, and so so notice I have a while loop, and embedded in the while loop is an if. If the num, the one that you put in as the user, percent symbol. That is a symbol that means do modulo arithmetic, meaning what is the remainder when you divide by some other number. So if the num modulo with a divisor is the same as, identical as 0, meaning the remainder is 0. That's the short answer. This modulo operation is going to see what the remainder is between this number and what you divide it by. And if that number divided by the divisor has no remainder, then it is a divisor. So what do? If that's true, we want to take div array, which was this thing here, which is presently empty, and append it with the thing that is presently the divisor, which in the first loop would be 1. So 1 will always work. Notice the comments over here. I attempt to explain what's going on here. Then I want to print that divisor, and then I want to, once I print that divisor, I'll come out of the if statement and increment the divisor. I'm still in the while loop. Notice how we're indented here. So it's going to go back up here, and divisor got pumped up by 1. Is 1 less than whatever number entered, yes or no? And it'll go through this, and sometimes when you do this, it will not have a 0 remainder, and therefore it will not append, because as soon as this isn't true, it pops out and increments the divisor. Now once we have gone all the way through and the while test fails, meaning the divisor is no longer less than the number, which would happen when the divisor has incremented to the num, we pop out of the while loop, and then we want to print the num. Because the reason why I want to print the num, because the num is also a divisor. You can divide it by yourself and 1, and it would have been printing all of the divisors each time through the loop, and then we want to add that in there. And what I've done here is not required in what we're doing, so I'm going to comment it out. We're going to come back and use this in a second. So let's run this bad boy. what positive number you want divisors for. So let's try something like 24. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, 24. So if you 24 and 1, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 6 and 4. Hey, it works. I believe it. Now, that's a list, and that's great. We know it. If we wanted to do something with the divisor list, then we need to deal with the thing as an array. So when I put these back in here, and by the way, div array is one short. It hasn't appended the num yet. So watch what, and that's why we have to, div array was up here getting filled, but even though we had previously just printed the num, div array would not have the num itself. It'd be shorted. So we append the num to it, then we can print it, and it'll have the whole thing. So when we add this and run it, we'll get two kinds of output. So use the same number, 24, and we get a list. And then we can do things to that list. So just, this really is not required for the whole loop structure, but we can do stuff now that we've filled a container, the list, an array. So we could say, I want the mean of div array, the average value, or the median, which is what I was threatening we would do for future stuff. So let's run this puppy. Use the same number. Mean is not defined. That's unusual. It was defined earlier. So let's see what happens here. Pop that out. Do I have... That's really strange. I don't know what to say there. It works just fine, and then when you go to show off, it don't work no more. So now I got 2 homework assignments to do, or maybe you can figure out why it ain't working. Later.